Of psilocybin mushrooms can change the world. I believe psilocybin mushrooms makes nicer people. I want to thank you very much.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spirit Plant Medicine. My name is Mark Curran. That was just a nice little opening video to kick off our World Psychedelic Day program, which Stephen and I kind of put it together a little last minute, but the idea and intention behind the program is we want to hear your voice. And we'd love to hear your stories. If you're watching on the social medias right now, anywhere on the interwebs, take a look in the comments where you're watching this, follow it up, and you'll definitely see the link where you can join us live in this Zoom room, and we'd be happy to hear your story. But what a great talk from Paul Stamets that was. That was from Spirit Plant Medicine Conference 2023. And it was a fantastic talk, like always. And I just love the line at the end where, he believes psilocybin makes nicer people. And I think that many of us could agree with that statement. I know I certainly do. But before I get going, I want to introduce my co-host, co-partner, good friend, ceremonialist, author, speaker. I don't know, the list goes on and on, Mr. Stephen Gray. Stephen, welcome to the program. Thanks for entertaining my late night wacky idea today.
Yeah, no problem. It worked out pretty well so far folks, I just got an email or a call, I forget which now, from Mark about less than 24 hours ago saying, hey, I got an idea for tomorrow. So cool. And some of our 2024 Spirit Plant Medicine Conference speakers also have been really nice and flexible about joining us in this last moment way.
And not just 2024, Stephen, but Brigitte Mars joined us she spoke in 2019. She's here today. So,
nice.
It's nice to have some of the luminary voices with us as well. Go ahead, Stephen.
Oh, what am I doing?
Well, I don't know. Let's get the show on the road. So this program, again, we put together because we wanted to hear people's stories about how psychedelics have helped change and transform your life, maybe some lives of family members. And that's really why we're here. So I'm going to pass it over to Stephen to introduce a couple of our special guests, and we'll see where this next little bit of time takes us.
Sure. Okay, thanks, Mark. Dr. Osiris Garcia Cerqueda has been kind enough to join us. Osiris is an indigenous Mazatec historian and sociologist from, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Jautla de Jimenez in Oaxaca, Mexico. For some people might recognize the name of that town because I believe, and you can correct me on this, Osiris, but I'm pretty sure that is the famous town where Gordon Wasson back in 1957 went to do a ceremony with Maria Sabina, and that changed many things, some for the good and some not quite for the good. But in any case, Osiris is one of the speakers coming up from Mexico this year to speak at the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference. And again, the question for you, Osiris, is can you say a few words about how psychedelics have transformed or helped transform your life?
Yeah, good morning to all. Greetings from Mexico. I am Osiris Garcia Cerqueda, an indigenous Mazatec from Huautla Jimenez, Oaxaca. I am a historian and I have a PhD in sociology. I am currently the program coordinator of the Indigenous Reciprocity Initiative of the Chacoruna Institute. I appreciate this invitation to share some of my knowledge about psychedelics. I want to say that our voices are breaking a new ground in the global psychedelic movement. English is not my native language. I apologize in advance for that, but I'm learning it more and more, and joining with all of you is a political act for the voices of the global south to be here. Especially, specifically, I want to talk about sacred mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms that are used by us Mazatec people. Since 1957, the Mazatec people have been recognized by Western societies. Many of you know the story of the healer Maria Sabina, the curandera Maria Sabina, and her meeting with the North American Gordon Wasson. But the ritual use of sacred mushrooms is very old. The codices and some colonial records of New Spain refer that the indigenous people of Mesoamerica performed rituals with mushrooms before the Spanish colonization. The ceremony with sacred mushroom is part of a wide healing system that is deeply related to nature, to the spirit of the mountain, the spirits of the wine, the spirits of the water. We have many ways to cure disease of the earthly world and also of the spiritual world. These are difficult to cure because they are not cured with a pill. Our knowledge is profound. I myself continue to learn from my culture. Now I want to share with you an example. The sacred rules of our ancestors say that we should not be disrespectful to nature. If we dirty the sacred home of the guardians, trap these guardians trap our spirit and it stays in the mountain. Our body returns home, but we are not longer the same. The family will recognize the illness and ask for help to a Mazatec shaman who will be the one to negotiate with the spirits of the mountain. In that negotiation, the shaman will know if the mushroom ritual is necessary. Now, I want to talk briefly about my experience. I am Mazatec, but I cannot perform a mushroom ceremony. Mazatec shaman need to receive the spiritual call. This call comes to them in many ways. In Western societies, everyone wants to heal with sacred plants and sacred mushrooms, but not everyone can do it. Since I was a child, I have known the different forms of Mazatec healing. I met wise men who, without knowing anything about our lives, could know our problems just by interpreting the call of a candle. I realized that our healing system is extensive and must be respected. I was a teenager and my father invited me to a mushroom ceremony. That ceremony was dedicated to a close family member. He was in the hospital and the doctor said that his illness was unknown. He was about to die. The Mazatec healer gave me 3 pairs of mushroom, called the rumbes. At that time, I dedicate myself to singing and praying for the sick man. At the same time, I was feeling many emotions. I cried and gave thanks for my existence. My father gave me some words of encouragement about life. He spoke me to he spoke to me about being a good person, about building good things for the world. When my father was young, my grandparents told him the same thing. My grandparents were indigenous people who worked the land like a farmers. They never went to school, but they were very wise. In this ceremony, the healer found the origin of our relative illness. We had to make offering to nature. 2 months later, our relative left the hospital alive. Today, we continue to practice these sacred rituals. Our tradition, our Mazatec tradition is resisting. That is why it continues to exist. Actually, our enemies are neocolonialism, the unbridled commercialization of our sacred elements, cultural misappropriation, and I think is now for is all for now. I want to share with all of you. I want to thank Stephen Gray for this invitation, and I want to see you in November. Thank you all of you.
Muchas gracias, Osiris, por compartir tu conocimiento sobre las plantas medicinas, etcétera, especialmente el hongo psilocybin, the psilocybin mushroom. And Osiris will be, as I mentioned at the beginning, with us as a speaker at the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference. And that was a neat little encapsulation of the kind of things that I imagine we're going to hear. I probably would, we're going to have to, Mark, we're going to have to interview him later because I probably had about a half a dozen questions just from the things that you said, Osiris. So thanks very much. And so now we're going to bring on another one of my favorite human beings, Acacia Lewis, aka Acacia Sherman, aka Acacia Lewis Sherman, who has already spoken at the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference last year in 2023, two very powerful talks, and because of that, we have invited her back to speak again at this year's conference. I don't want to say too much more because just for moving things along here, but I'll just say that Acacia has made an incredibly deep study of the psilocybin mushrooms and the spirituality associated with those mushrooms and the use of them. She's on a real deep exploration, life exploration. She's studying Buddhism, practicing Buddhism, and she's doing some revolutionary work, if I may say so, Acacia, in terms of how to understand those two streams of spiritual practice and perhaps blend them in certain ways, and a whole bunch more that you can see in her bio on the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference website. So the question, as you know already, Acacia, but in case I notice a couple of people have just joined us. So the question again is, can you say a few words about how psychedelics have impacted your life in a beneficial way? You're muted, Acacia. You have to unmute yourself, I think. Not hearing you yet.
I
There you go.
clicked on mute. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for having me here. I gotta say that I was listening to the words of Osiris. The first person who introduced me to mushrooms, his name was also Osiris. And one of my teachers was Baba Kalendi E, founder of the Tamarian Institute. And the story of Osiris and Acacia is an interesting one, because when he was dismembered, I think one of his vital parts was found inside the tree of life, But he is the quintessential mushroom tree priest of the Egyptians, the god of the underworld. And what's interesting about it for me is that Baba Kalindi Iyi spoke at great depth about the African roots of psychedelic mushroom use, coming from 5.3 million years ago to today, and then spreading all over the world. You know, a lot of people are not aware of the fact that psilocybin mushrooms grow on every single continent except for Antarctica. And so we have so many different traditions, so many different cultures that have a specific ritual context that needs to be honored in the context that was intended to be utilized. The mushroom has been utilized for the purpose of preparing for death. The mushroom has been utilized for helping people to heal so that they do not die. The mushroom has been associated with birth and death for thousands and thousands of years in a multitude of cultures and traditions that both honor and revere the sacredness of the psilocybin mushroom. And so I study cultural anthropology, and the study of how ritual use contextualizes how mushrooms can be utilized in profound ways beyond the more mundane recreational or allopathic use that is being kind of commercialized. You know, we have many different traditions, from the Buddhist tradition to the Aztec, Mixtec, Mayan, and Mazatec traditions. So I'm really grateful that I've had some elders who were trained with Maria Sabina and who were educated on the codices to teach me more about the ritual contextual use in Mexico. And because I am an eternal student, I would say that the mushroom has changed my life in that it became the ultimate cultural research tool. I am Afro-Latino and Indigenous, and I have an honorary doctorate from the Native American Church of Turtle Island. You know, I've been working with the psilocybin mushroom for over 12 years, and I've studied it as an initiate in 5 separate traditions that are independent of each other, to see where they intersect, where they share wisdom, and where they have differing of opinion in the interpretation of ceremony and the ritual healing use or preparation for entering the underworld experience, as well as their non-dual realizations. And currently, I am in training to become a Buddhist nun or yogini. And that is another tradition in the Kagyu lineage that my teacher, Lama Mike Crowley, author of Secret Drugs of Buddhism, initiated me into as an upasika, as a traditional lay Buddhist disciple. And so most of our work is prayer work and transformation work. And these kinds of work, when paired with the psilocybin mushroom, can make one's sight very clear and also help one to escape the illusions inside of the mind that cause negative thoughts to arise spontaneously. And so by disciplining our minds and finding out that our true nature is the mind of the Buddha, that we have this pure, clear equanimity within us, there is a real big hope to overcome difficulty. You know, even though you might have really hard days, to know that something inside of you is brighter and stronger than what you are facing is really encouraging to a lot of people who face depression. And so that's just one tradition of many traditions. But I am an eternal student and always willing to learn. And the mushroom has changed my life in that it has given me a research platform that will never be exhausted. There will never be a time where we can say we truly know the breadth of the mushroom experience. And it's a mystery that I believe we are constantly exploring and learning more about every day.
Well, thank you very much, Acacia. That was wonderful. And again, I want to tell people that Acacia will be back at the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference again this November 1st to 3rd. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say this time, because as I mentioned in introducing you, I know from experience with you that you have an immense amount of knowledge and that you're growing faster than a mushroom in the forest at this point of your life. So, thank you.
Thank you, Acacia. It's always a pleasure to hear your words of wisdom, and I look forward to seeing you again, maybe even this summer at the Unicorn Music Festival.
Ah,
I
indeed.
really look forward to that. Thank you. And I hope to meet Osiris because the name, that's just, it's an honor. Peace.
We'll have to dive into that conversation. That'll be
Yeah.
interesting.
Um,
Awesome. So,
s-
hey, Stephen,
yeah,
I was wondering, maybe we can see if Brigitte Mars will turn on her camera and we can bring her in.
sure. What
I
about,
always,
sorry to interrupt. What about pardon me, Soy Pimichitan? He didn't arrive?
I haven't seen him yet. No, no.
Okay.
So let's bring in Brigitte Mars. And what I'll ask is if there's anyone participating as a guest in the room, if you'd like to share your story, please raise your digital hand and we can come to you next because we'd love to hear your voice. I see iPhone 3 has his hand raised, so we'll come to you after Brigitte Mars. Brigitte Mars, if you're there.
Mark, hang on a second. Remember, either before or after Brigitte, I'm going to read this from Chris Beige before we go to others, okay?
Okay, we'll do that after Brigitte.
Okay.
All right. Brigitte Mars. There
Greetings,
she
everyone.
is. Thanks for coming out today.
Well, I was so delighted. I shared something on Facebook. What a great event, and I'm delighted to be here. I wasn't planning on presenting, but I'm certainly willing to. Would you want me to talk about what psychedelics have meant to me or how I got started or?
Yeah, really just about how psychedelics have impacted and changed, transformed your life. I know you have such a wealth of knowledge from herbalism and plants and so many things that you do. But what I'm really curious about is, the personal changes that you've seen. And, it might even be kind of the pathway that got you into the line of work that you do. I'm not sure exactly what that is for you, but, the question being is, how has it transformed your life?
Well, thank you so much. Well, I will say that when I was 15 years old, I went to an all-girls boarding school, Miss Hall School for Young Ladies. And one night, someone knocked at my door and said, "Quick, Sally's taking 8 hits of acid and she's having a really hard time." And I think I found my calling because I went to Sally's room and changed the music. Uh, we sang "Row, Row, Row Your Boat." We breathed and then we watched the sunrise. And I think I found my calling that, like, wow, creating safe set and setting is really, really important. And, you know, I wanted to share that life went on. I ended up being expelled from Miss Hall's for some of the illegal herbs I had in my drawer, even though I had rescue remedy and lavender essential oil. There were some of those illegal herbs. But by the time I was 19, I found myself living in a house in Canada. And I found out that Timothy Leary's wife, Rosemary Leary, was coming to live with us. And my first husband was someone who made secret compartments for this group who some of you might have heard of, kind of on the fringes of the Brotherhood of Eternal Love, who are often referred to as the hippie mafia. So he built secret compartments, and Timothy and Rosemary Leary were on the run. And somehow she came and lived with us. And I learned a lot from her about having sacred ceremony. It wasn't just let's take drugs. It was how do we plan um, how do we plan an adventure day that is evolutionary, where we activate all the senses, have something beautiful to smell, have art supplies, have wonderful snacks? How do we ground ourselves? And I learned at a really young age that if you're going to do these things, how important it was to get centered, be with people you know and trust, be in a beautiful, safe set and setting, And I always took it really seriously. And even though I was very young, at a very young age, even if it was smoking cannabis, I would always say a prayer first. I like to call it praise and blaze. But for me, I think that these sacred plant medicines opened me up to the possibilities that it's not just about me. It's that by tuning into things like natural foods and herbal medicine and helping the environment and writing books and making a positive difference. And so I really like to show that these substances can be very helpful. And I've been a sitter for many years. I'm also a graduate of the Psychedelic Sitter School. And years ago, I was so delighted to be the keynote speaker at the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference. So I'll give this opportunity to somebody else, but I do really feel like I want to use my voice. And when we look at the world, I do think we need help. And this is a way that can help wake people up to a better world. So thank you. Peace and blessings.
Thank you for being here, Brigitte. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, Stephen, you've got something you want to share from our friend Chris Beisch about the answer to the question of the day.
Yes, indeed. So, for the few remaining people on the planet who don't know who Chris Beisch is yet, that was a joke, whatever. He is getting better known, actually, through his incredible book, LSD and the Mind of the Universe. Chris has spoken at the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference 3 times and will be back again this year. And the reason we keep inviting him back is because he is truly brilliant. I don't know if Chris would accept this term, but I call him a mystic. He's had such deep experiences in psychonaut realms. Anyway, on this ridiculously short notice situation that we mentioned a few moments ago, I also sent out a personal invitation to Chris to join us. He's unable to do that. However, he did respond right away to my email and said that someone had asked him that very question in an interview, and he gave her something like a dozen little short phrases to choose from to follow up on. And they're quite short, so I'm going to read them. So each of the following sentences, begins with the term, I have learned, so on, right? So I have learned, or Chris has learned, that the universe is the manifest body of a divine being of unimaginable intelligence, compassion, clarity, and power. That we are all aspects of this being, never separated from it for a moment. That we are growing ever more aware of this connection. That physical reality emerges out of light and returns to light continuously. That light is our essential nature and our destiny. That all life moves as one. That reincarnation is true. Again, all these are prefaced with what Chris has learned. That there is a deep logic and significance to the circumstances of our lives. That everything we do contributes to the evolution of the whole. That our awareness continues in an ocean of time and a sea of bliss when we die. That we are loved beyond measure, and that humanity is driving toward an evolutionary breakthrough that will change us and life on this planet at the deepest level. So thanks to Chris Beisch for sharing that. Back to you, Mark.
Well, that was beautiful, Stephen. Thank you so much for reaching out to Chris Beisch, and always thankful to Chris for sharing, his words of wisdom. And, he always amazes me because those, the number of high dose LSD journeys is really quite incredible. And it's something that takes some courage, I think, to go as deep as he did. So thank you for bringing in his voice today. Now we have a participant here who has joined us. I don't know his name. He comes up as iPhone 3, so maybe you can bring in that 3 box, Michael?
Yeah.
Awesome. And I will ask you to unmute, sir. Awesome. And maybe you can tell us your name and where you're from, and tell us about how psychedelics. Have you unmuted yourself there?
My name, I finally get to talk to you. My name's John Sayre. I'm a partner with Steve Mather with the At Ease
Oh,
Microdose
awesome.
Company. Yeah, we have a booth at your last couple of years. And I finally get to meet you and talk to you because usually by the time things get going at the show, I start getting phantom pain from being in my wheelchair too long, and I usually take off, and I can only go there. I can only stay there so long. But yeah, I've been microdosing for over 15 years, and I have a genetic heart problem. So I have a built-in defibrillator. I'm on number 4, and I was getting shock electrocuted while conscious. So I started getting post-traumatic stress from being electrocuted so many times that I started microdosing 15 years ago or so. And then I was in a really bad head-on accident on my motorcycle. A guy crossed the center line in an SUV, and I was in the hospital for 8.5 months. 30 upper body fractures, lost my leg above the knee, and mushrooms helped me through that too, big time. But the microdosing has really helped me with my post-traumatic stress big time, because when my heart would act up, I'd go into shock and I'd go into post-traumatic stress, and I'd grab my pulse and I'd freeze and I'd go into internal panic, and that's gone now. And also, I've had over 20 operations now, so I just had one last week on my heart, and I know my days are numbered, and the mushrooms have really helped me accept that, because of my heart condition. um, um, I know that I'm not going to live a full life. So mushrooms have really helped me accept that big time. But yeah, that's about it. That's all I want to say, how mushrooms have changed my life. I ran into Steve, and I had Golden Teacher mushrooms, and he made a recipe for his daughters on the downtown east side, and he had post-traumatic stress, and I had post-traumatic stress, and I said, well, let's start a company. So we started At Ease, and Steve started making the recipes for microdosing. And then I take it in the middle of the night. Sometimes I wake up and I can't sleep, and I'll take the mushrooms in the middle of the night for sleep. But yeah, so me and Steve started the company, and we've helped so many people. It's unbelievable. And now we're working with dogs and mushrooms with dogs and CBD. CBD and a 7 mushroom blend with dogs, and unbelievable stories about the dogs we have. It's just heartbreaking. Steve's dog, he was going to have it put down 3 years ago, and we started giving it the mushroom mix with the CBD, and now she's going to be 19 in August. Mika, so the famous Mika. So our CBD drops are called Mika drops. So now I've got friends with a beagle that's 16. They never lived to be 16. That's been doing the mushroom mix for 2 or 3 years now. And then we've saved quite a few dogs from being put down. So it's amazing what the mushrooms have done for the dogs, and that lets you know what it's doing for us. So we can see it through the dog, but you know that it's helped. Hey, Steve.
Yeah, we
Hello,
got Steve
there we
here
go.
with us. Thanks for being here, Steve.
A pleasure. Am I unmuted finally? Sorry, I'm.
You are. Yes, you are.
My partner
Okay.
in crime. Partner in crime.
Yeah, I've got to. I've been listening to John and you guys as I've been driving here, and I got to say not only has the mushrooms been life-changing for myself and people in my family, but as like John talked me into doing the company thing so that we've expanded and you know, how other people are using the products, and then I made the stuff for my dog. And we're blessed. We're blessed to hear testimonials from people about how things have changed their lives, and how it's changed the dog's life, and through the dog living longer, it's changed their lives. And you know, I've got to say that psychedelics has given me a great grasp of gratitude, and understanding that there's a lot more out here that we don't know, and that there's a lot that can be healed utilizing plant medicine and spirit plant medicine. There's so much that can be done. It's you know, I want to say thank you to you two for what you guys do, and Andrew for making that conference happen and giving people a platform to be able to share the stuff and share the stories, because the stories of healing, man, seriously, I'm almost crying from it, just thinking of all the you know, just the people that say thank you for the life changing from, you know, and really, what are we doing? We're sharing stuff that already grows here and is natural. We're combining some things and sharing and watching magic happen, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, we're not going to be rich, but we're rich as far as people thanking us for every time we help someone. It just feels so good. It's that's life changing too. Helping all the people with the psychedelics. The people, they just hug you and they cry and they thank you for changing their lives. But it doesn't work for everybody. Like I said, and me and Steve were in the documentary, The Psychedelic Frontier, and just like I said, I think about 70% success rate. There's about a 25 to 30% of the people out there, for some reason, I don't know if it's hardwired into their brain, the damage, but just there's some people that just don't work. And I think a lot of it is they're taking taking antidepressants, which from the doctor, synthetic, which I think doesn't help. But
no, it battles the work.
Yeah, it does. And yeah, but no better feeling than having someone say you've changed my life, crying, man. It's the best feeling in the world by far. Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
I have one that feels better, and that was me crying, going, my life has changed.
Yeah, it's been good watching.
That one was, yeah.
Hey, I'd like to know
Wow.
more about your mushroom mix there. And by the way, does it work on cats?
We
Yeah.
haven't tried it on
Yeah.
cats yet.
Yeah, we've had a couple people using it for cats as well. You just use
Oh, I
a
didn't know
smaller
that.
dosage. Yeah.
Let us know, or let me know at least, you know, how I can get my hands on some of that.
Well, I can bring it by when I
I-
bring the books by to get them autographed.
All righty.
There we go. Well, and one thing I want to comment on, guys, because I really love what you shared, and you know how you what I'm seeing in, you know, some of the things we've heard already is how people are now, you know, they have their experience and they share it with other people. They're paying it forward in that sense. And, you know, Steve, you said something really important about, you know, these are natural, especially when we talk about mushrooms. And, you know, when you get back to nature, there's magic that happens. Pardon the pun, if that might come across that way, but it's so true. And Dennis McKenna I have had this conversation a few times. It's like, you know, whoever gave man the right to make nature illegal? You know, to me, it's kind of a very colonial, kind of capitalistic,
Well,
crazy.
the drug companies had a lot to do.
I agree. I hear you on that. But that's a
Yeah.
topic for another conversation. And
Yeah.
Steve, what you said was about gratitude as well. And, you know, I thank everybody here for being here. I thank you guys for sharing your story. And Steve, we also have Cindy Howell here, your partner in your Mushy Moment podcast. Thank you so much for sharing, John. We're going to bring Cindy up. Cindy, if you can turn your camera on and unmute yourself, we can have a little conversation with you as well. There we go. All right,
Hi,
switch that
just
box.
give me, I'm just, I just need to pull over. I'll be just another minute, but I can chat, and then I will turn on my microphone when I get pulled over in about 30 seconds. How's that?
No, that's perfectly great. But yeah, if you've got any more to add to that, Stephen, that would be great. And we'll just wait for Cindy to come on and go from there.
Well, I'll just say that I really like what Steve said about mushrooms growing in our area, and also acacia that they grow in all over the world except for Antarctica. Well, maybe they'll have to do some indoor growing down there. But in regard to that, there's a group of people called Sacred Circle here in the general area of Vancouver and the West Coast, who are starting to combine the use of psilocybin mushrooms with their traditional worldview and practices. And Reuben George told us that the reason for that is because they do grow in this area, as opposed to, say, the ingredients for ayahuasca, which have to come from far away. So I really like this idea of using what's available. And Cindy seems to be ready to roll here.
Awesome. Thank you, Cindy. Now, I met Cindy through Steve. They've got a podcast they do every Tuesday, I believe, at 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Pacific, called Mushy Moment. And really glad you're here, Cindy. And maybe you can just tell us a little bit about how psychedelics have helped transform and change your life.
Thank you for the invite, Mark. I'm very honored to be here with you and Stephen and everybody else. They saved my life. In a short, to the point statement, I wouldn't be here having a conversation with you if it wasn't for the psychedelic medicine that I have partook in. It really started with cannabis. Cannabis was my gateway medication. Back when I was a kid, they called it a gateway drug. And it is a gateway medication. For me, it was anyway. It led me back to psilocybin. Years ago, I got clean off of street drugs and pharmaceuticals with cannabis, actually. And I eventually started microdosing a number of years after I got into the cannabis as medicine. And I got loud about my healing. Because I got loud about the mushrooms and the microdosing and the macrodosing, somebody invited me to go to a documentary. I'm sure we have all heard of it. It's called Dosed, the first one. And with Dosed, the first one, I followed Adrienne, and I thought I was going to learn about mushrooms. And halfway through the story, of course, we start talking about iboga. And I knew, I felt the calling. I knew I was supposed to head that way, and I knew I was supposed to partake with that medicine. And I did. It took me about a year and a half, just under 15 months, actually. And through iboga, that led me to 5-MeO, DMT, led me to combo and hape and sanonga and all of these wonderful medicines in the natural world. But just before I found iboga, I was planning my own death. I was heading out, and I was heading out my way through because of depression, really PTSD and depression. And mushrooms helped a lot, but they didn't help all the way. There was one night I was actually surrounded by five cop cars and an ambulance, and they took me to the hospital. And I thought, I'll just try again here in a couple of months when everybody has forgotten. And in those couple of months, like I said, I found iboga, and I'm here, I'm alive, and I am still fighting the good fight, and I'm still speaking my story loud, thanks to people like you giving me opportunity to. I am now studying psychedelic medicine to help facilitate other people, because God bless, if I can help people find a path to get their own toolkit to help heal their own PTSD, I will be incredibly blessed. So that is my hope, and that is my joy. And that's why I came out last November, because I knew I was going to come learn a lot, and I did. And I can't wait for this November. I've already got my tickets, and I can't wait to see you guys and get more hugs. And Stephen Gray, I have been wanting to say this to you since you held the cannabis ceremony at the last conference. I didn't think that cannabis could do that to me. My dear man, you gave me so much healing in that couple of hours. It was
Wow.
unbelievable, and I needed to thank you for it.
Oh, that's beautiful to hear. Thanks, Cindy.
No,
Yeah,
thank you.
And Cindy, I also want to thank you about bringing up the point about Adrian in the movie Dosed, because I know John was saying earlier that psilocybin doesn't work for all people. And one of the things I've learned over the course of my journey was it's about finding your medicine. And, if mushrooms don't work, maybe it's iboga, maybe it's LSD, maybe it's MDMA. Like there's different tools out there.
There's so many.
And,
Yeah.
we all
They
have
all
different.
speak a different language. They all give different message. They give the healing messages in different ways, and you need to find the one that you understand.
Yes, absolutely. And Cynthia, I certainly relate to what you said about cannabis. I've been a cannabis person all my life. And, I would use cannabis and meditate, but it's when I first became part of Spirit Plant Medicine in 2017 that I had experienced after the event a cannabis ceremony. And that was a profound change in my relationship to the plant and to see it
Mhm.
in a different way. And Stephen does such a wonderful job of, a gentle yet certain uh, result or experience. And I always think it's funny because there was one time one of the participants and I were sitting there in ceremony and we were closing at the end and we said, "Really, Stephen, was that just cannabis?" Because I had like a full-on psychedelic experience and she just took the words right out of my mouth. And so I thank Stephen for really being an advocate of the plant as well. And I thank you two both for doing the work that you're doing to pay it forward and to keep sharing it. And that's why I think it's important to let people know. And I want to do more programs of this nature where we can hear real people, real stories, real transformation. Because I think experience at the end of the day is the best teacher. We need the social validation. And to touch on what you were saying at one point, Steve, was, we are grateful for the plants and for the medicine. And I'm really grateful for, being in Canada where cannabis is now legal, so that social stigma has been removed. And that especially in Vancouver, I can only speak for our local area, but there's such a softness around mushrooms and things of that nature, that it's not like a big criminal offense or anything of that nature when we have mushroom dispensaries, on the street now. And it's kind of, I see it going the way of
It's nice to
cannabis.
see it relaxing and getting like that. It really is. When I started my microdosing, there was none of that. It was, hunt to find somebody that at least had some good clean mushrooms. There was you didn't have those options. And now that people are not just with the mushroom, but they're going, oh, if you add these adaptogens and combine these plants with it, you can get, so much more out of the healing as well. It can come, smoother, louder, just amazing, amazing.
Absolutely.
I also want to say thank you to you, Stephen. You've changed my life in the aspect of how I view cannabis. I've been a heavy cannabis user, complex PTSD. I've used it medicinally for a long time without knowing I was using it even medicinally. It took me time to learn that, oh, that's why I use so much. But to now add in the ceremony and the gratitude and the energy of spirituality while utilizing it has literally changed it and taken it to a different level. And as I honor and give gratitude for the plant and put ceremony into my usage of the plant, I'm finding I'm actually using less.
Lovely. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And by the
Yeah.
way, regarding the availability of mushrooms, I just wanted to throw in kind of for fun that when I was a young man, pretty much the only way you could get psilocybin mushrooms in this general area around Vancouver in Canada was to get down on your knees and crawl around in a field with cow patties.
Yep.
Been there, done that. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Of course, here in Nova Scotia, we're a little bit behind you guys in Vancouver for that. No mushroom dispensaries down here, although there are a number of Indigenous dispensaries and delivery systems that, carry a few different strains. But it is still, we're still a few years behind you guys.
Well, I think it's happening slowly but surely. But
Yeah.
I just want to thank you both, Steve and Cindy, and I look forward to seeing you both, if not sooner than November, in November. And thanks for being part of the program.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
having us on. This is
Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing it.
My
Great.
pleasure.
I
So
love
I
this,
want to
Mark. I
reach.
love this this like really revealing, honest, personal sharing that people do and are doing in this format. It's really moving. It's wonderful. Like
Yeah, it's
Cindy.
something I've actually wanted to do for a long time.
Yeah.
And, when I realized it was World Psychedelic Day and I was getting some information to help share the word, I thought we need to do something too as Spirit Plant Medicine. We're not just a
Hmm.
conference, every year we want to bring people's voices and really, as I know this guy who wrote a book, what's it called, How Psychedelics Can Help Save the World. And I know it wasn't Gabor Mate, right, Stephen?
Yeah, that's right. So Mark, we could, we could talk about this at another time, obviously, but I think it would be really cool to have a little forum for specifically what we're doing here, where we actually invite people in person to come in and tell their stories of healing like that, because I think it's very inspiring and encouraging for people potentially to hear other
And we
people's
will.
stories, like Cindy's and a few couple of other
John's.
people. Yeah, like our iPhone 3 friend, for example.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. And we
yeah,
will do more.
yeah.
Um, so in the essence of time and honoring people's time, is there anybody else who would like to share? I see Julio's got his camera on. Maybe he'd like to share his experience. I'm not sure. But we do have the lovely Theta Phoenix has joined us. Um, but if anybody would like to share, just raise your digital hand or let us know in the chat and we'll bring you into the program. Julio, did you want to share? All right, Julio. Can we bring Julio in, Michael? Let me find Julio.
Can you hear
You
me?
are unmuted, Julio. So yeah, you can start speaking and we'll bring you into a box.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. I just saw the email and joined as soon as I received the email. Um, I cannot be more thankful for the medicine. Initially, I was, at that time, my girlfriend was suffering some depression, and I started doing a lot of research, reading about Gabor Mate and everything about psychedelics medicine. I found actually my wife now found Stephen Gray podcast, and I started listening to it, and then we get into the medicine initially to help my girlfriend at that time. Now it's my wife, but at that time I didn't know I also needs the medicine. I thought I was just helping her, uh, but I didn't know I also need help. And right now I feel like I was lost, but I didn't know I was lost. At one point, I feel like my life was okay without realizing that it wasn't. Uh, Now I can feel. Before I was living like a robot. Now I'm living like a human. I'm crying. I'm laughing. I'm living. And first we use mushrooms in several locations, high dose, over 5 grams. And it was really good for my wife. She overcome depression. And for me was just okay, was fine until I get mescaline. And I guess people need to find their medicine. When I tried mescaline 9 months ago, uh, it was a extremely difficult experience. It felt like my heart opened for the first time, and I feel suffering. While I was under mescaline, I feel really bad. I feel pain. I feel suffering. And I didn't know at that time whose suffering is. I thought it was my wife suffering or somebody else. I didn't realize it was mine. A few weeks after, I think what happened is it finally opened my heart and I start feeling for the first time, or maybe for the first time after several years. And now I can have conversations with my family, my father, my sister, my mother, that I never had it before. Before it was just some text messages, hey, hi, how you doing? That's it. Now we're having like 4, 5, 6 hours deep conversations. My dad is crying, I'm crying, my sister is crying. It's like I was moved to a different dimension. It feels like magic, like I'm in a different planet now. So I'm definitely thankful for the medicine and for the podcast. Um, my wife is who introduced me to the podcast, and it was great. It was really good, but because at sometimes when we use mushroom in a high dose, sometimes we feel lost. Like, okay, what's happening right here? Uh, we receive messages like, okay, everyone is God, but okay, what to do with that? It was very confusing at some times, and your podcast helped us a lot. uh,
Yeah,
I mean, thank you so much for everything. Mhm.
yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing. A propósito, ¿dónde estás? ¿Dónde vives?
I live in Florida, but I'm original from Peru. Uh,
Ah,
my family is from Peru. I'm living in Florida. My wife is from Venezuela, and she also lives in Florida. And we're planning to go back to Peru, to the Amazonas, and have hopefully a ayahuasca experience. But so far we've done mushroom, high dose, silohuasca, and mescaline.
well, thanks a lot for sharing. So you're speaking to us from Florida, are you?
Yes, yes.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Thank
Well, thank you for
thank you so
being
much.
here, Julio. And, hope to see you again in the future. Keep in touch. Make sure you sign up on our list if you're not on our list already. I'm not sure how you found us. But yeah, no, that's fantastic. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And yeah, my pleasure. So we're going to bring in another guest here before we start wrapping things up. If there is anybody who wants to share, you can raise your digital hand or let me know in the chat and we can bring you in. But in the meantime, before we do that, I'm going to bring in a friend of mine. We've been doing a lot of work together over the past while. Michael Kraus, he's in the control room here, running the show from the back end. So Michael, it's all yours. I'm going to mute my microphone so we don't get feedback.
And I think I have to unmute my microphone. So I'm hoping everything is good in terms of sound right now. I just wanted to deeply, deeply, deeply express my gratitude to people like you, Stephen, and you, Mark, for showing up in this time in our human evolution. And the way I see it is that nature is reaching out to us. It is not, or it's bi-directional, but from my understanding is nature is offering herself towards the healing process of the individual, but also of the collective. And within that process, we have to be open and we have to listen to what nature is telling us. And so the people that are at the forefront of acquiring the knowledge and the wisdom as to how to work with plant medicine and how to combine it and how to keep it in a sacred container are extremely, extremely important in this day and age. And I just wanted to say thank you. And I've experienced you, Stephen, a couple of weeks ago here at a cannabis ceremony, and I expressed it to you then. The wisdom that you hold around the medicine of cannabis is extraordinary, and your guidance and is really, really, really important in this day and age. And I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and thank you to all of you, and also thank you for sharing authentically. And I think this is what is required right now, is that we need to reach out to nature, and we need to reach out to our brothers and sisters that are I don't want to call it need help, because I don't want to judge it that way, but to guide them gently through a process towards individual and collective healing, and ultimately planetary healing. So thank you, all of you.
Yeah, beautifully said, Michael. Thank you. And may I just take a moment briefly, Mark, to confirm or emphasize what you said, Michael, about the planetary healing. I'll try to keep this as brief as possible because it is a long and difficult topic. But the shortest way I can say it is that most people are aware, either unconsciously, semi-consciously, or consciously, that conditions are deteriorating rapidly in many ways on this planet. And so the message and the support, the message that we're all wounded warriors, you might say, and so much healing needs to be done. And the support for that are more important than they have ever been, as far as I'm concerned. So that's part of, what hopefully an event like this is doing. You're muted, Mark.
I know I was talking to Michael because now he's got to go back to work.
All right, yeah.
It's what we call now, we're setting up a 2-box. We're going to a 2-box because I direct and everything else on the back, so we work together.
Yeah.
I just want to thank Michael as well for his support and everything that we do, because he's always been a great support for this work, and I'm very grateful for that. So before we wrap up, I just want to check and see if anybody else would like to share that's here. If so, please drop a message in the chat or raise your digital hand. If not, then we're going to start wrapping up with our last guest with a little bit of a special closing. Yet if nobody wants to share, then that's great. So I just also want to thank, before we close off, because when our last guest shares and shares her gifts, we're going to come through on, we're just going to finish off with the sound, and we're just going to go right to a close. So I want to welcome one of Spirit Plant Medicine's, I think she's been around that conference way before my time anyways, the beautiful, talented, inspiring Theta Phoenix, who I'm honored to really call a great friend over the years. So welcome, Theta, to the program.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks for joining us on such short notice, by the way.
Yeah, my pleasure. I just wanted, and I couldn't get here for the whole thing, but the shares that I heard are so inspiring to me, and I also have benefited from some of these medicines. And were you sharing, so just personal, like stories about, yeah.
Yeah, the question was basically how psychedelics have, helped change your life, transform your life, what kind of a difference that they've made in your journey.
Mm-hmm. And then does that include all medicines, like under that umbrella?
As long as they're not pharmaceutical.
I'm like, because there's synthesized things, so I'm wondering, are you differentiating between synthesized?
Not specifically.
Yeah, like three of them.
Mind manifesting medicines,
Yeah.
psychedelic medicines, entheogenic medicines.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 3-MMC, I think you're referring to, that,
Yeah.
that's a powerful medicine, and MDMA and things, LSD. So we'll share what you feel called.
Of course. So I just wanted to share that, I got to experience the medicine, the 3-MMC, and the profound healing of that medicine, enabled me to go back to an early attachment wound that from like pre-memory from 2 years old, and realize how much I'd like kept my mom at a distance from her sort of not being there for me. And it was profound. The thing that came up for me in this memory with this medicine was how something like the early attachment trauma, so many of us are living our lives with these early attachment traumas that are at the source of so much of our dysregulation and disconnection with other human beings. And when we can go back, it's so profound that this medicine can allow me to go back to this memory with my mom, where it was like she wasn't able to meet my needs in that moment. And it was, so I will say the memory, what I think it was like a cry it out experience. That's when they were trying to wean me off the bottle. It's vulnerable sharing this, but I had this memory of being like really seeing what happened in my system and how I was like, okay, I can't count on you, so I'm keeping you, like I'm not gonna ever be able to count on you again. And you know, our relationship has been very challenged for my whole life, in that I haven't felt like being able to let myself really open up to that. So when I had this experience under this medicine, it was, I actually went back to the bond that I shared with her prior to that rupture in our relationship. And I could feel the love, the depth of the love and the connection that existed before. And I just wept because of just that, how human beings can be in our whole system, how we can have of these protective mechanisms that then influence the entire rest of our lives in these ways. And if and that we can actually go in and help to unlock them through these medicines is such a profound gift. And ended up, yeah, being on the phone talking with my mom, and our relationship has been healing since then, on the nervous system level. And it's just, yeah, it's just such a profound thing. So I am going to play now. Unfortunately, Cindy just had to leave, but I wanted to share that. Thank you, Karen. Yeah, I just was so deeply moved by how disconnected we can get from our hearts, and the possibility. I was also really moved by Julio's share. When we reconnect with our hearts and open our hearts again through these medicines, it's profound what can happen. So much healing. So thank you, Stephen and Mark, everyone here, for the beautiful, courageous work that you're doing in the world for healing. And I'm so grateful to be in service.
Yeah, thank you for that beautiful share, Theed. And you know, I also want to honor your vulnerable sharing, because I know sometimes these things are tough for people to share, or it's deeply personal. And I just want to honor you for the courage that it takes and your authenticity in that. And I think that helps let people know that it's okay. And one of the things Stephen and I are always committed to is creating that safe, sacred space where people can be their authentic selves, where they can share, where there's no judgment. And we come from a place of understanding and appreciation of all people, of all beings, of all nature, I think is really important. So I really want to thank you for that. And I'm sure, I know there's people here who had already commented that it makes a difference.
I think
So
all of
thank
us
you.
are, yeah, I think all of us really are our whole system is seeking to return to wholeness and to that state of perfection that we were born into, that place that we were born, where we were so open and we were just pure unconditional love. And to be able to return to that experience is the biggest gift.
Absolutely. Anything to add to that, Stephen?
No, that was really well expressed, Theda. I appreciate that. Really clear. No, the only thing I would do is to say how they influenced my life, but I think we're out of time, aren't we, Mark?
We are getting close. We could read your books, and we'll come back where we're going to do some more programs like this of that nature, and we can share more of our story, because I'd love to share mine as well. But before we wrap up, Theda has generously offered to close us out with the Sacred Sound transmission. But before we do that, I just want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank Osiris for taking some time out of his day. I know it was all last minute, so I really honor that. Acacia Lewis for being here, Brigitte Mars, Julio for sharing, Cindy, Steve, and just everybody who's here. I thank you for hearing the call and coming in to participate and share your stories. And I want to thank you for that. And not that we want to, make a shameless plug or anything of that nature, but if you're interested in learning more, Spirit Plant Medicine Conference every year, first weekend in November, 1st to 3rd this year. You can join us online in person. It is more of a ceremony than it is a conference, and it is a palpable experience. It's incredible, and I'm not saying that because it's what Stephen and I do is a passion of ours, but it's because it's the feedback that we've heard from so many people, how it's had an impact on their lives. And if you're looking for something to do this summer, we're also going to be doing a Spirit Plant Medicine summer camp up to the Unicorn Music Festival in Salmo, British Columbia, where Stephen will be leading one of his, I think now world famous cannabis ceremonies. Theta will be there bringing her gifts of music. Acacia Lewis will be there as well. So it's not just a music festival, it's, talks during the day. And what's really cool about the Unicorn Music Festival is also the Rosebud Bowl. The founder, Che LeBlanc, has a organic, fully regenerational biodynamic farm where they grow cannabis. So it's education during the day and music and dance through the night. So you're welcome to join us. You can check out our website. There's some information there. We'd be happy to have you be part of the community at that camp. And now we are going to, unless Stephen has any final words before we go, because we're going to go when Theta finishes, that will complete and we will remain silent. So she takes us out with her beautiful gift of music.
Yeah, just a quick and simple question for you, Theta. Did you just recently get a bunch of glass bowls?
Oh, I've had them for a while, but I don't bring them to the conference because they're smaller. And so I usually bring the big white ones to the conference because they look very magical. But I
I
do
want,
have, yes, I do have the beautiful.
yeah, I want to talk to you about those at some point for my own reasons. Yeah, anyway, carry on.
It's all yours, Theta.
All right. So
Take
I'm
us
just,
away.
thank you. Just going to lead us in a short meditation just to really anchor in the gratitude for these medicines, the gift that they are in the world, and the heart opening that they bring to us. Yeah, honoring the medicines. Thank you so much. Okay. Na ya na na
blessings and love. Giving thanks to the beautiful sacred medicines